A lot of people ask me, MD, how can I improve my pronunciation? And I also get asked, MD, how do I fix pronunciation inconsistencies? Today, I'm going to share with you language strategies and communication techniques to improve pronunciation. Let's get right to it. First of all, let me start by saying that if you notice inconsistencies between your pronunciation and native English speaker pronunciation, that's great. That's the first step. The first step to remedying any language or communication issues is noticing. Noticing allows us to notice the correct form of a word and how it should be pronounced. It also allows us to notice the incorrect pronunciation. And lastly, noticing enables us to notice the way you're pronouncing the word. If there is alignment between the correct pronunciation and your pronunciation, congratulations, you are pronouncing the word correctly. However, if you are noticing misalignment between the correct pronunciation and your pronunciation, that just means you are pronouncing the word incorrectly, but not to worry, we can remedy that. And to remedy that, you can isolate the word in question and record your pronunciation, then listen to the correct pronunciation and repeat it several times. The repetition is really important here. That's really how we're going to get it to where we want it to be. And so then re-record your voice and continue to get your pronunciation as close to the correct pronunciation as possible. So try this technique out if your pronunciation is incorrect and you want to get it closer to the correct pronunciation. All right, so that's one technique that you can use in that situation. Now, sometimes your pronunciation is correct some of the time, but not all of the time. You might notice that your pronunciation varies. It changes. At times, you pronounce the word correctly, and at other times, you pronounce it incorrectly. This means that your pronunciation is inconsistent. In some situations, it's correct. In others, it's not. So now I'm going to address what to do about inconsistent pronunciation. When you notice inconsistent pronunciation, the first thing is to make note of it. And because you have the self-awareness to identify that incongruity, that is great. Noticing is the very first thing. You notice that your pronunciation is inconsistent and changes in different communication settings or events. Once you've identified that you have inconsistent pronunciation, it's time to pay attention to the situation. In what situations do you pronounce the word correctly? And in what situations do you pronounce the word incorrectly? With what audience members or conversation partners does your pronunciation vary? In other words, how is your pronunciation when you give the barista your morning coffee order? How is your pronunciation when presenting in a meeting at work? How is your pronunciation when you're interfacing with high-profile clients for your job? We are trying to answer the question, why do you pronounce the word one way in one setting and completely differently in another situation? I encourage you to make note of as much as you can with enough detail so that you can get to the bottom of the pronunciation inconsistencies. And once you've gathered all of the data and all of the information, see if there are any common themes. For example, maybe you notice that in stressful situations and tense work environments, your pronunciation is one way. And then you also notice that in calm and relaxed situations, your pronunciation is another way. It's probably no surprise that the more tense and stressful the situation is, the worse the pronunciation. Does this sound familiar? Okay. The point is, if you can pronounce the word correctly some of the time, but not all of the time, it's less of a pronunciation problem and more of a social anxiety issue. And so one great tool to combat social anxiety is breath work. Breathing techniques help ground you in the present moment. Slowing your breath down, and in particular, extending and lengthening your exhale can calm the nerves. And this allows us to think more clearly rather than panic or feel anxious. When we clear our headspace, we can think more clearly. When we can think clearly, we are more aware of our pronunciation, but also relaxed enough that we don't tense up. So try out these 2 useful tools and techniques to improve your pronunciation and align it to the pronunciation you are seeking to replicate. If there is misalignment and you're pronouncing words incorrectly, then what you can do is single out and isolate the words that you want to pronounce. Record your pronunciation and the correct pronunciation and repeat this process until your pronunciation and the correct pronunciation are aligned. A more advanced version of this exercise is to reduce the pronunciation to a few words but maintain the connected speech aspect. So you're connecting and blending sounds as opposed to isolating that one word. And that's the advanced option. And you can continue this process until you're satisfied with your pronunciation. And in terms of pronunciation inconsistencies, when you notice inconsistent pronunciation, make note of it. It seems like you already have the self-awareness to identify that incongruity, which is great because noticing is the first step. And then I'd like for you to record the inconsistency, which you can do simply on your phone, and practice saying the entire sentence and make note of the context that certain pronunciation pops up. For example, who are you speaking to? What was the situation? How were your nerves? Were you nervous? Were you calm? Were you anxious? Were you scared? Were you happy? What was the topic? How did you feel in general? Confident? And so forth. And then I'd like for you to ask yourself, why was this pronunciation different in this situation and in that situation? Why was it different and inconsistent? And so try to find any commonalities between the situations and the communication participants, because finding a theme can help you address the issue. We discussed social anxiety as being one of the root causes of this issue, and breath work can help remedy it. So there you have it. Be sure to practice as often as you can because that really helps, and consistency is key with this. So keep those exercises handy. Pronunciation is one of the areas that can be improved. So even though you might feel like it is impossible to change your pronunciation or work on accent reduction, it is totally possible to improve your pronunciation. And it really comes down to the techniques and the exercises that we discussed in this lesson today. So be sure to keep a positive outlook, practice, be patient, and most importantly, keep it consistent. All right, advanced English learners, thank you so much for joining me for this lesson. If you're watching this lesson on YouTube, be sure to give it a big thumbs up and subscribe to the channel, share it with friends and family. And if you're listening to the podcast version of this lesson and love our podcast, please be sure to leave us a nice review. You can leave up to 5 stars. That really helps us out. And also turn on the notifications so that you never miss a beat. The full transcript of this lesson can be found on our blog, so be sure to check that out. advancedenglish.co/blog. And while you're there, feel free to sign up for our free newsletter so that you can get our lessons delivered straight to your inbox each and every week. All right, I will see you in the next advanced English lesson where we're going to continue advancing your English together. Until then, keep up the awesome work, and I will see you soon.